Lieutenant Rodriguez spat into the mud. Bet she can't even read a compass without breaking a nail, he muttered, loud enough for the other officers to hear as Olivia approached the riverbank. Heard she only made it through selection because they needed to fill some quota, Captain Mercer added with a smirk. Though I wouldn't mind seeing her struggle through the water obstacle. Sergeant Walsh chuckled. $5 says she quits before we hit the rapids. Olivia Pierce pretended not to hear as she checked her gear. After 8 years of service, 2 combat deployments, and graduating top of her class at West Point, she was used to the comments. As the only female instructor assigned to the Advanced Wilderness Navigation course, she'd expected resistance. The Special Operations Training Program had only recently opened to women, and old attitudes died hard. "Gentlemen," she called out, her voice cutting through their laughter, "river crossing demonstration begins in 5. Anyone not in full gear gets to go first, without a safety line." The smirks faded as they turned to prep their equipment. Olivia knew they underestimated her, but that had always been her advantage. Growing up as the daughter of a park ranger in the Appalachian wilderness, she learned to navigate by stars before she could ride a bike. Her father had taught her to read topographical maps when other kids were still coloring inside the lines. By 12, she could find her way through dense forest with nothing but a compass and her instincts. When her high school guidance counselor suggested community college, Olivia had instead secured a congressional recommendation to West Point. There, despite being told repeatedly that women lacked the spatial reasoning for advanced land navigation, she'd broken records in orienteering competitions. Her uncanny ability to memorize terrain had earned her the nickname Human GPS among the few cadets who respected her skills. It was during her first deployment to Afghanistan that Olivia had truly proven herself. Their unit had been ambushed in a remote valley, communications jammed, with 3 wounded soldiers needing immediate evacuation. With their navigator killed in the initial attack, Olivia had stepped forward. Using only paper maps and the stars, she led them through treacherous mountain passes in pitch darkness, avoiding Taliban checkpoints and bringing everyone home alive. The mission had earned her a silver star and the tattoo that now wrapped around her ribcage. "Pierce. Demo time. Show these cadets how it's done," Colonel Hargrove called from across the training area. At least the colonel judged her on merit, not gender. Olivia nodded and waded into the frigid water of the Shenandoah. The river was swollen from spring rains, its current powerful enough to sweep away the unwary. Perfect conditions to teach these cocky cadets respect for nature's force. "Watch carefully," she shouted over the rush of water. "River crossings kill more soldiers than you'd think. Respect the water, maintain your triangle stance, and never unclip from your safety line." She demonstrated the technique flawlessly, crossing the 30-foot span where the current ran strongest, then returning to the bank where 20 cadets watched with varying degrees of interest and skepticism. "Holt, Chin, Diaz, you're up first," she ordered, pointing to 3 cadets who had been whispering throughout her demonstration. The trio managed the crossing with obvious difficulty, Diaz nearly losing his footing halfway across. When they returned, soaked and humbled, Olivia nodded. "Not terrible. Next group." "Lieutenant Pierce," interrupted Rodriguez with a mocking salute. "Since you're such an expert, why don't you show us the advanced technique? Without the safety line." A dangerous request, deliberately meant to undermine her authority. Protocol demanded using safety equipment during training. But Olivia recognized the challenge for what it was, a test she couldn't afford to fail, not if she wanted these men to listen when it really mattered. "Fine," she said coolly. "Pay attention, because I won't repeat this." Colonel Hargrove frowned but didn't intervene. He knew her capabilities better than anyone. Olivia removed her tactical vest and outer shirt, leaving just her olive drab t-shirt and pants. Less drag in the water, less weight to pull her down if things went wrong. She studied the river for a moment, reading its patterns, the subtle indicators of underwater obstacles and current strength that most people never noticed. Then she was in the water, moving with the current rather than against it, her feet finding purchase on slippery rocks with unerring precision. She crossed diagonally, using the river's force to assist rather than hinder her progress, reaching the opposite bank in half the time of the cadet's attempts. For her return, instead of retracing her path, she chose a more difficult route directly through the rapids, demonstrating mastery that left even Rodriguez silent. As she emerged from the river, her shirt clung to her body, completely soaked and nearly transparent. "And that, gentlemen," she said, breathing evenly despite the exertion, "is how you cross when there's no bridge and no backup." The training continued through the afternoon, each cadet attempting the crossing with varying degrees of success. By 4 o'clock, everyone was soaked and exhausted, muscles aching from fighting the current. "All right, gear down and head back to base," Olivia ordered. "Full debrief at 0700 tomorrow." As the cadets trudged toward the transport vehicles, Olivia remained behind to ensure all equipment was secured. The day's exertions had left her t-shirt mud-streaked and uncomfortable. With no one around, she peeled it off quickly to change into the dry clothing from her waterproof pack. Or so she thought. The sound of a dropped canteen made Olivia spin around. She hadn't been alone after all. 6 officers, Rodriguez, Mercer, Walsh, and 3 cadets who had struggled most with the crossing, stood frozen at the edge of the clearing, staring at her exposed torso. But it wasn't her athletic build that had captured their attention. It was the intricate tattoo spanning her entire ribcage, an elaborate topographical map rendered in black and blue ink, with delicate contour lines flowing across her skin like waves. Olivia quickly pulled on her dry shirt, but the damage was done. The secret she'd kept for years was now visible to exactly the wrong people. "What the hell was that, Pierce?" Rodriguez asked, his usual mockery replaced by genuine curiosity. "Nothing that concerns you, Lieutenant," she replied coldly, zipping up her tactical vest. "Didn't look like nothing," Mercer pressed. "Looked like a map." Olivia shouldered her pack. "Report to Colonel Hargrove for additional duty, all of you. You were ordered back to base." Walsh stepped forward. "Is that why you never get lost? You've got some kind of cheat sheet tattooed on your body." The accusation stung because it fundamentally misunderstood everything the tattoo represented. It wasn't a cheat, it was a memorial. "Back off, Walsh," she warned. But the damage was spreading. One of the cadets was already texting, no doubt sharing what they'd seen. By morning, the entire training battalion would know about Lieutenant Pierce's mysterious map tattoo. Colonel Hargrove was waiting when she returned to base, his expression grave. "My office, Pierce." "Now." The Spartan room offered no comfort as Olivia stood at attention before his desk. "They saw it," she stated rather than asked. Hargrove nodded. "Rodriguez reported it directly to me. Said he was concerned about potential security implications." His tone made it clear what he thought of Rodriguez's sudden interest in security protocols. "There are none, sir. It's personal." "I know that," Hargrove said, his voice softening slightly. "But you also know how this looks." A Special Forces navigation instructor with a map permanently inked on her body raises questions. Olivia remained silent. "You're going to have to explain it," Hargrove continued. "Either to me now or to a formal inquiry later when the rumors reach command." She'd known this day might come. The tattoo had always been a risk, but one she'd accepted as necessary. Perhaps it was time. "It's the Karengal Valley, sir. Eastern Afghanistan." Recognition flickered across Hargrove's face. "Operation Red Wing?" "No, sir. 2 years later. My first deployment. The mission I told you about, the one where we lost comms specialist Davis and navigator Thompson." Hargrove leaned back. "The night extraction. 9 men saved. 8 men and 1 woman, sir. Sergeant Rivera." Olivia's voice remained steady, but her hand unconsciously moved to her side, tracing the outline of the tattoo through her shirt. "We were cut off, communications jammed. Thompson was killed in the first minute of the ambush. 3 critically wounded, including Captain Spencer. No GPS, no radio contact, and a storm moving in that would ground any potential rescue. And you navigated them out," Hargrove finished. "I had studied the maps obsessively before the mission, sir. I knew every ridge, every ravine, every elevation change. When everything went to hell, that knowledge was the difference between everyone dying in that valley and getting home." Olivia finally sat in the chair across from Hargrove. After we got back, I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing the terrain in my mind, kept thinking, what if I had forgotten something? What if next time I don't have the maps memorized perfectly? So you made sure you never would forget, Hargrove said quietly. She nodded. The tattoo isn't just the Karangal. It's a composite map of key terrains from 6 different regions where our forces operate. The elevation lines are accurate, the water features precise. Each tiny mark represents something only I would recognize: safe houses, extraction points, emergency caches. And these regions are classified, sir. Known only to me and the tattoo artist, who happened to be a retired major with top-secret clearance. Hargrove's eyebrows rose. Clever. It's not about cheating, sir. It's about never again being in a situation where I don't have what I need to bring people home. The colonel studied her for a long moment. That's a burden you've taken on yourself, Lieutenant. One that goes beyond duty. With respect, sir, that's exactly what duty is. Hargrove nodded slowly. Rodriguez and his cronies won't see it that way. They'll use this to undermine you further. I'm aware, sir. And you're prepared for that? Olivia's gaze was unwavering. I've been prepared for worse since the day I enlisted. A hint of approval crossed Hargrove's face. Very well. Tomorrow's land navigation exercise just became significantly more important, wouldn't you say? For the first time, Olivia allowed herself a small smile. Yes, sir. I believe it did. As Olivia had predicted, by morning the story of her tattoo had spread throughout the training camp like wildfire. When she entered the mess hall for breakfast, conversations stopped abruptly, only to resume in hushed whispers as she passed. She kept her back straight, ignoring the stares that followed her to the officers' table. Rodriguez and his group sat at the far end, smirking as she approached. "Morning, Lieutenant," he called loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Planning to wear a bikini for today's exercise? Might help the cadets navigate better." Several officers laughed, but Olivia merely set down her tray and took a seat, her face betraying nothing. "Isn't it against regulations?" Mercer chimed in. "Using unauthorized aids during training?" "Actually," came Colonel Hargrove's voice from behind them, "Lieutenant Pierce's methods have been fully vetted by command." He placed his tray next to Olivia's and sat down. "And today's exercise will demonstrate exactly why she's the lead instructor for this program." The smirks faded, replaced by uncertainty. Hargrove rarely took meals with the training officers. "Sir," Walsh ventured. "I've modified today's land navigation course," Hargrove announced. "Lieutenant Pierce will brief you all at 0800. When the officers assembled at the trailhead an hour later, Olivia stood before them with a stack of sealed envelopes. "Today's exercise has changed," she began, her voice clear and commanding. "Instead of the standard course, you'll be navigating through Sector 7, the Northern Ridge Complex. It's twice as difficult as what we had planned, with denser forest cover and minimal trail access." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the group. Sector 7 was notoriously challenging, rarely used for anything below advanced training. Furthermore, she continued, no GPS devices. Compasses and paper maps only. She held up the envelopes. "Each team will receive different coordinates. Your objective is to locate 3 markers and return to base before 1800 hours. Rodriguez stepped forward. "And you'll be evaluating from command post, I assume?" Olivia smiled thinly. "No, Lieutenant. I'll be running the course solo, finding all 15 markers, not just 3, without a map or compass." Shocked silence followed her statement. "That's impossible," Walsh protested. "Even with your advantage." "Is it?" she challenged. "Colonel Hargrove will verify my success or failure. Any team that beats my time and accuracy will be exempt from the night exercise scheduled for next week." It was a powerful incentive. The night exercise was dreaded by everyone, a grueling 18-hour ordeal that pushed even the most experienced operators to their limits. "One more thing," Olivia added. "I'll be wearing a standard issue t-shirt. No tattoo reference. My advantage, as you call it, is up here." She tapped her temple. "Not on my skin." The teams dispersed, eagerly tearing open their assignment envelopes. Olivia approached Hargrove, who watched with undisguised amusement. Bold move, Lieutenant, he said quietly. You sure about this? Absolutely, sir. Her confidence wasn't bravado, it was earned through years of rigorous self-training. They need to understand that the tattoo isn't what makes me good at my job. It's a reminder of why I do it. Well, you've certainly raised the stakes. Rodriguez is already planning how to spend his week of free evenings. Olivia checked her watch. He should focus more on his pace calculation. His team consistently overestimates their speed in dense terrain. The exercise began with teams departing at 5-minute intervals. Olivia, as promised, went last, wearing nothing but standard field gear. Before setting off, she studied the master map for exactly 1 minute, memorizing the locations of all 15 markers. See you at 1700, sir, she told Hargrove confidently, then disappeared into the treeline. What followed was a masterclass in natural navigation. While other teams fought with their compasses and maps, constantly stopping to reorient themselves, Olivia moved through the wilderness with fluid precision. She read the terrain like a book, noting the moss growth on trees, the direction of prevailing winds in branch patterns, the subtle changes in vegetation that indicated shifts in elevation. By midday, she had located 9 markers, passing several struggling teams in the process. She offered no help, merely nodded and continued on her route. The forest grew denser, the markers more cleverly hidden, but Olivia never hesitated. She'd studied these woods for weeks before the training began, had walked sections of it at dawn each morning, committing every significant feature to memory. At 1655, 5 minutes ahead of her promised return, Olivia emerged from the forest at the base camp, 15 marker tokens secured in her pack. Colonel Hargrove checked his watch and nodded appreciatively. It would be another hour before the first team returned, and nearly 3 before all teams made it back. Only 2 teams found all 3 of their assigned markers. None came close to Olivia's time. As the exhausted officers gathered for debrief, their earlier mockery had transformed into reluctant respect. Even Rodriguez seemed subdued as Hargrove confirmed Olivia's perfect score. Lieutenant Pierce will now explain the techniques that allowed her to navigate today's course without instruments, Hargrove announced, stepping aside. Olivia faced the group, noting the changed expressions, some curious, some resentful, but all attentive. The human brain is the most sophisticated navigation system ever created, she began. Long before GPS or even compasses, people crossed oceans and continents using observation and memory. That's what I did today and what I'll teach anyone willing to learn. She explained her methods, reading natural indicators, maintaining awareness of the sun's position, using landmark triangulation. She showed them how to track straight lines by sighting distant objects, how to estimate distance by counting paces, how to recognize subtle terrain patterns that repeated across landscapes. The tattoo you saw yesterday, she said finally, addressing the elephant in the room, isn't a cheat sheet. It's a memorial to the men and women who died because someone couldn't navigate when technology failed. It's a promise I made never to let that happen to soldiers under my guidance. She looked directly at Rodriguez. You can make jokes about it. You can report me to command if you think it violates regulations. But what you can't do is deny that the skills I'm teaching might someday save your life when everything else fails. A heavy silence fell over the group. Walsh was the first to break it. Teach me, he said simply. I want to learn how you did that without a compass. One by one, others nodded in agreement, even Rodriguez, though he did so with obvious reluctance. Colonel Hargrove stepped forward. Lieutenant Pierce will be conducting optional advanced navigation sessions every evening this week. I strongly encourage all of you to attend. His tone made it clear this encouragement was closer to an order. As the officers dispersed, Olivia remained behind, gathering her equipment. She felt a presence and looked up to see Rodriguez standing awkwardly nearby. Lieutenant, he began stiffly. I may have misjudged certain aspects of your qualifications. It was as close to an apology as his pride would allow. Olivia considered him for a moment, then nodded. Navigation at 1900 hours, Rodriguez. Don't be late. He gave a curt nod and walked away. It wasn't friendship or even genuine respect yet, but it was a beginning. Olivia touched her side where the map lay hidden beneath her uniform, not a crutch or a shortcut, but a reminder of why excellence mattered. In the field, prejudice and politics disappeared. All that remained was competence and the will to bring everyone home alive. That night, every officer attended her session. And when she removed her outer shirt to show them the tattoo, explaining its significance, the lives it represented, the promise it embodied, no one laughed. Instead, they listened as she traced the inked contour lines across her ribs, telling the story of the night she'd led 8 wounded soldiers through enemy territory using nothing but her knowledge of the land and unwavering determination. By the end of the training cycle, MAP had become her new call sign, not as mockery, but as recognition of a skill that had earned their respect. And if some still harbored doubts about women in special operations, they kept those doubts to themselves. After all, when you're lost in hostile territory, what matters isn't the gender of the person leading you home, only that they know the way.